Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, today we embark on a profound journey into a hidden treasure of ancient wisdom, a book often overlooked, yet brimming with spiritual revelations that can deepen our understanding of heaven, prophecy, and God's eternal plan. The Ascension of Isaiah is more than a mystical narrative, it's a testament to the spiritual realities beyond our earthly comprehension. In this apocalyptic text, preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, the prophet Isaiah is taken through the seven heavens, witnessing divine hierarchies, celestial worship, and a powerful prophecy of the Messiah's descent to earth, a mission to defeat darkness and bring salvation to mankind. Have you ever wondered what lies beyond the veil of our physical world? What role do angels play in maintaining divine order? And why does this text, with its vivid visions and bold revelations, remain excluded from many Christian Bibles? Today, we uncover these mysteries together. But before we begin, I invite you to take part in this spiritual exploration. If you find this journey inspiring, like this video, share it with someone who seeks a deeper understanding of Scripture, and subscribe to our channel for more insights into hidden texts and spiritual truths. Let us know in the comments what intrigues you most about Isaiah's journey, and together we can dive even deeper into this extraordinary book in future videos. Let us open our hearts and minds as we step into the heavenly realms revealed in the Ascension of Isaiah. Now, let us begin. 1. The first heaven, the foundation of divine order. As Isaiah ascends to the first heaven, he is immediately struck by the order and beauty that surround him. This is not merely a realm of ethereal light, but a place teeming with divine purpose. In the Ascension of Isaiah, the prophet describes the presence of angels who oversee the stars, the sun, and the moon, ensuring their movements align perfectly with God's divine plan. These celestial beings are not symbolic, they are living testaments to God's authority over creation, fulfilling roles assigned to them from the beginning of time. This vision resonates deeply with the words of Genesis 1 verse 14, where God declares, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and years." Yet, the Ascension of Isaiah takes us beyond the creation account, revealing the heavenly agents who guide these celestial bodies in their ordained paths. Isaiah observes angels of various ranks, each with specific duties related to maintaining the natural order of the universe. These angels govern the rhythm of the cosmos, ensuring that the physical world operates in harmony with God's will. It is here that Isaiah begins to understand a crucial truth: the physical and the spiritual are intricately connected, and the order of the heavens reflects the order God desires for all creation. In chapter 7, verse 8, Isaiah notes, "And they showed me the angels who rule over the stars and their heavenly stations, and the angels who govern the rising and setting of the sun." This passage highlights the precision and intentionality of God's design. The stars, sun, and moon are not mere objects in the sky, they are under the careful stewardship of God's angelic hosts. This reflects the psalmist's declaration in Psalm 19 verse 1, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork." Isaiah's encounter in the first heaven reveals the faithfulness of the angels to their Creator. They do not deviate from their appointed tasks, their obedience is absolute. This stands as a reminder for us to reflect on our own lives. Are we, like these angels, fulfilling the roles God has entrusted to us? Do we live with the same dedication to reflect His glory in all that we do? As Isaiah continues his ascent, the light and glory surrounding him intensify. This transition signifies a deepening of divine revelation. The first heaven is foundational, illustrating God's control over the natural world, but it is only the beginning of the journey. Isaiah is drawn upward, where he will encounter higher realms of spiritual truth and purity. Yet, even in this first heaven, Isaiah perceives a clear distinction between the roles of the angels here and those he will meet later. In chapter 7, verse 10, Isaiah writes, these angels of the first heaven serve God in their governance of the material realm. They are concerned with the natural laws that govern the earth, but their glory is lesser than those in the higher heavens. This hierarchy reflects the layered structure of God's kingdom, where each realm and its inhabitants have a specific purpose. Isaiah's vision invites us to consider the deeper implications of this first realm. The angels here teach us about the importance of obedience and stewardship. They operate in perfect alignment with God's commands, maintaining the balance of the universe. This challenges us to examine whether we are similarly aligned with God's will in our own lives. Moreover, the first heaven emphasizes the interconnectedness of creation. The movements of the stars, the orbit of the planets, and the phases of the moon are not random, they are part of a divine symphony orchestrated by God. This reminds us that our own lives are part of this greater order. Just as the angels faithfully carry out their tasks, we too are called to live in harmony with God's plan. As Isaiah prepares to ascend further, he is struck by the increasing radiance and holiness of the realms above. The first heaven, though glorious, pales in comparison to the realms that lie ahead. In chapter 7, verse 12, Isaiah notes, "And I was taken upwards to a realm where the brightness was greater, and the angels more resplendent in glory." This transition reflects the progression of God's revelation, from the natural to the spiritual. In the first heaven, we see God's sovereignty over the material world. In the second heaven, we begin to encounter His divine agents who bridge the gap between heaven and earth. These angels are not merely stewards of creation, they are messengers of God's will, sent to guide and protect humanity. Isaiah's journey reminds us that the spiritual realm is layered, each level drawing us closer to the heart of God's presence. The first heaven lays the groundwork, showing us the harmony and order of creation, but it also points us upward, to the higher heavens where the mysteries of God's kingdom unfold more fully. 2. The second heaven, the bridge between earth and the divine. As Isaiah ascends to the second heaven, he is immediately aware of a shift in the atmosphere, a deeper radiance, a greater sense of awe, and a clearer glimpse into the spiritual order that governs both the heavens and the earth. This realm serves as a bridge between the material world and the purely spiritual realms above. The second heaven is not simply an intermediary space, it is a critical link where God's will begins to be enacted more directly in the lives of His people on earth. Isaiah describes this realm vividly in chapter 7, verses 13 to 15 of the Ascension of Isaiah. "And I was taken up into the second heaven, and the glory of its angels was greater than that of the angels of the first heaven. And there I saw angels who govern the spiritual and physical realms, and they carried out messages to the world below, bringing the will of the Most High to earth." Here, Isaiah sees angels of immense beauty and authority, shining brighter than those in the first heaven. These angels are tasked with a dual purpose, governing aspects of the spiritual realm while acting as messengers to the physical world. They are responsible for conveying God's plans and ensuring that His commands are executed on earth. In this realm, the angels function as intermediaries. They bridge the gap between the divine and the human, acting as conduits of communication and intervention. Isaiah observes angels descending and ascending, a striking parallel to Jacob's vision of the heavenly ladder in Genesis 28 verse 12. "He dreamed, and behold, there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it." These movements signify that God is actively involved in the affairs of the world. He is not a distant creator, but one who continues to guide, protect, and communicate with His people through these angelic beings. Isaiah's vision reinforces the truth that the second heaven is where God's divine plans begin to intersect with the human story. Isaiah sees specific orders of angels in the second heaven, each with distinct roles. Some deliver messages to prophets and faithful servants, while others act as protectors, guarding God's people against spiritual attacks. This aligns with the biblical accounts of angels like Gabriel, who delivered God's messages to Daniel, Daniel 9 verses 21 to 22, and Mary, Luke 1 verses 26 to 38. In chapter 7, verse 16, Isaiah writes, "And I saw angels bearing scrolls, inscribed with the words of the Most High, and they were sent down to earth to deliver his commands to his servants. And I saw others who carried swords of fire, prepared to battle the forces of darkness that sought to defy his will." These images reveal the dual nature of angelic work, proclamation and protection. The angels of the second heaven are deeply involved in spiritual warfare, guarding humanity from the schemes of Satan and his fallen angels. This is echoed in Ephesians 6 verse 12, where Paul reminds us, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." Isaiah's vision of the second heaven also highlights the constant battle between good and evil. In this realm, angels prepare for their missions, equipping themselves to counter the influence of fallen angels who dwell in the lower heavens. The second heaven serves as a staging ground for God's spiritual army, where divine strategies are formed and executed. Isaiah notes in chapter 7, verse 17, "And I saw angels girded with armor, and their faces shone like fire. They sang praises to the Most High as they prepared to descend to the earth to confront the powers of darkness." This depiction emphasizes that spiritual warfare is not confined to earth but extends into the heavenly realms. The angels of the second heaven are constantly at work, ensuring that God's purposes prevail even in the face of opposition from the forces of darkness. The second heaven is intricately connected to the first heaven below and the higher realms above. While the angels of the first heaven govern the physical order, those in the second heaven ensure that God's spiritual plans are carried out on earth. At the same time, they remain in submission to the authority of the higher heavens, where God's throne resides. Isaiah reflects on this interconnectedness in chapter 7, verse 18. "And the glory of the second heaven was great, but I was told, there are realms above this where the glory of God shines even brighter, and the mysteries of his kingdom are revealed in greater fullness." This progression reminds us that God's kingdom is vast and layered, each level building upon the next to fulfill his ultimate purpose. The second heaven offers profound lessons for us as believers. God's active involvement, the presence of messenger angels, reminds us that God is not silent. He speaks to his people through his word, through his spirit, and through divine intervention. Are we attentive to his voice? The reality of spiritual warfare, Isaiah's vision underscores that we are part of a larger spiritual battle. The angels of the second heaven fight on our behalf, but we are also called to stand firm in faith, as Paul exhorts in Ephesians 6 verse 13. "Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm." Trusting God's sovereignty, just as the angels carry out God's will without hesitation, we are invited to trust in his plans for our lives. Even when we face challenges, we can be assured that God's purposes are being fulfilled through his divine agents. As Isaiah ascends further, he senses a shift once again. The glory of the second heaven, though remarkable, is but a glimpse of the purity and majesty that await him in the third heaven. In this next realm, Isaiah will encounter angels who serve directly in the presence of God, their worship unceasing and their purity untainted by the struggles of the earthly realm. Isaiah writes in chapter 7, verse 19, "And the angel who guided me said, Come, for the Lord has prepared greater things for you to see, things that no mortal mind can comprehend." And so, the journey continues upward, from the bridge between earth and heaven to the threshold of God's unblemished glory. 3. The third heaven, the realm of divine justice and mercy. As Isaiah is lifted into the third heaven, the glory he beholds surpasses anything he has encountered thus far. The light is purer, the air more radiant, and the presence of the divine more palpable. This realm, described vividly in the Ascension of Isaiah, is where the separation between the earthly and heavenly realms becomes more pronounced. In this heaven, Isaiah witnesses angels of an even higher order, their appearance resplendent and their tasks more intimately tied to the fulfillment of God's will. These angels are not merely stewards of creation or messengers to earth, they are ministers of God's purpose, bridging the spiritual and physical realms in profound ways. Isaiah observes these angels carrying out duties that transcend the governance of the stars and the delivery of messages. Here, the third heaven is revealed as a domain of deep intercession and spiritual governance, where angels work to bring about God's justice and mercy. The prophet writes in chapter 7, "I saw angels whose faces were like the radiance of fire, and they were holding scrolls inscribed with the judgments of the Most High. These were given to them to enact upon the earth, to uphold righteousness and bring retribution to the wicked." This passage illuminates the role of the third heaven as a place where divine decrees are not merely formed but also actively executed, affecting both the spiritual and physical realms. As he gazes upon these heavenly beings, Isaiah is struck by their singular focus and unwavering obedience to God. These angels, he notes, do not act of their own accord but are completely attuned to the will of the Almighty. Their authority is immense, yet it is always exercised in humility and submission to God's commands. This is where Isaiah begins to understand the weight of divine justice, both its severity and its perfect alignment with God's character. He describes the moment when he sees angels descending to earth with their scrolls, their presence both awe-inspiring and fearsome, as they carry out God's righteous judgments. The third heaven is also a realm of spiritual preparation, a place where angels are equipped to engage in the ongoing cosmic battle against the forces of darkness. Isaiah writes, "I saw angels clad in garments of light, girded for battle, and their voices echoed like thunder as they praised the name of the Most High." This image reflects the reality of spiritual warfare, a theme echoed in passages like Ephesians 6 verse 12, which speaks of the struggle not against flesh and blood but against spiritual forces in the heavenly places. Isaiah's vision reminds us that the third heaven is not merely a domain of peace, but also one of active engagement, where the forces of light are marshaled against the powers of darkness. Isaiah's experience in the third heaven reveals a significant transition in his understanding of the heavenly hierarchy. While the first and second heavens focus on the stewardship of creation and the delivery of God's messages, the third heaven introduces him to the divine interplay of justice, mercy, and warfare. This realm serves as a threshold where the spiritual intensifies and the veil between God's throne and the lower heavens grows thinner. The angels Isaiah encounters here are no longer intermediaries between God and man, but servants who operate within the direct flow of God's will. They embody the perfection and purity of their Creator, their very presence a testament to His holiness. In one moment of profound revelation, Isaiah is shown the prayers of the saints rising like incense before God, carried by these angels to His throne. The prophet writes, "And I saw the prayers of the righteous ascending like fragrant offerings, and the angels took them into the presence of the Lord." This imagery reinforces the connection between the third heaven and the faithful on earth. It is a reminder that our prayers are not forgotten or ignored, they are gathered and presented before the Almighty by these heavenly ministers who intercede on our behalf. As Isaiah ascends higher, the radiance of the third heaven begins to pale in comparison to the realms above. His guide, an angel of great authority, turns to him and says, "You have seen the justice and mercy of the Lord, now come, for the glory of His presence awaits you." This moment marks a turning point in Isaiah's journey, as he leaves behind the realms of active spiritual governance to enter the pure worship and unbroken communion of the higher heavens. The light grows brighter, the air more still, and the sense of God's holiness more overwhelming as Isaiah is drawn upward to the fourth heaven. The third heaven, with its balance of justice and mercy, reminds us that God's plans are not confined to the spiritual or physical, but encompass both in perfect harmony. It challenges us to consider the role we play in this divine order, calling us to trust in God's righteousness while actively engaging in the spiritual battle through prayer and obedience. As Isaiah ascends, he leaves behind the realm where prayers are gathered and justice is enacted, stepping closer to the ultimate source of all glory, power, and light. For the fourth heaven, the realm of the fallen and the bound. As Isaiah ascends to the fourth heaven, he encounters a stark and unsettling contrast to the realms he has previously traversed. This heaven, though still under the dominion of God, reveals the consequences of rebellion against divine authority. It is a place of profound darkness, where the fallen angels, those who defied God, are bound and await the final judgment. Isaiah's description in chapter 7, verse 23 is haunting, "And I saw there a darkness, greater than I had ever known before, and angels who were bound in chains of fire, their faces turned away from the light of God." This vision of the fourth heaven echoes the warnings found throughout Scripture regarding the fate of those who rebel against the Creator. The fallen angels Isaiah observes are reminiscent of the watchers in the book of Enoch, who sinned by descending to earth, corrupting humanity, and producing the Nephilim. In both texts, these beings are depicted as chained, awaiting divine judgment. Jude 1 verse 6 reinforces this imagery, "And the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day." Isaiah's vision is particularly significant because it not only confirms the reality of these rebellious beings, but also provides insight into their role within the broader cosmic struggle. In chapter 7, verse 25, he writes, "And I asked the angel who guided me, 'Who are these who are bound?' And he said, 'These are those who defied the Most High, who sought to exalt themselves above his throne. They are held here until the time appointed for their destruction.'" This aligns with the depiction of Lucifer in Isaiah 14 verses 12 to 15, where his pride leads to his downfall. "You said in your heart, 'I will ascend to heaven, I will raise my throne above the stars of God.'" The fourth heaven is a sobering reminder of the consequences of pride and rebellion. Isaiah observes not only the bound angels, but also the profound separation from God's light that defines this realm. The angel guiding Isaiah emphasizes this in chapter 7, verse 27, "They have no part in the light of the Most High, for they chose darkness over glory and pride over submission." This underscores a central theme of the Ascension of Isaiah, that all creation is accountable to the Creator, and there is no escape from the consequences of rejecting his authority. As Isaiah continues to explore the fourth heaven, he also perceives the ongoing battle between good and evil. He notes in chapter 7, verse 29, "And I saw the angels of the Most High, armed with fiery swords, standing guard to prevent the wicked from escaping their bonds." This depiction highlights the vigilance of God's faithful angels in maintaining the boundaries between the fallen and the righteous. It also serves as a powerful illustration of the cosmic warfare described in Ephesians 6 verse 12, where Paul writes, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness." The fourth heaven also gives Isaiah a glimpse of the ultimate fate of the fallen angels. In chapter 7, verse 31, he writes, "And the angel said to me, 'They will be cast into the abyss when the judgment is complete, for the Son of God will descend and bring judgment to all.'" This ties directly to the prophecy of the Messiah's victory over Satan and his forces, which is a central theme of Isaiah's journey. The fallen angels' imprisonment in the fourth heaven is not their final destination, but a temporary state, reminding readers of the certainty of God's justice. For the audience, this vision raises profound questions about the nature of rebellion and the justice of God. The bound angels in the fourth heaven stand as a warning, not only to the spiritual realm, but also to humanity. Pride, disobedience, and a rejection of God's authority lead to separation from his light. This truth is both sobering and motivating, urging believers to walk in humility and faithfulness. As Isaiah ascends from the fourth heaven to the fifth, he notes a dramatic shift in the atmosphere. The darkness of the fourth heaven gives way to a radiant purity, where the angels of the fifth heaven stand in unbroken praise and worship before the throne of God. The contrast between these realms is stark, reminding Isaiah and us of the eternal divide between those who serve God and those who oppose Him. In chapter 7, verse 33, Isaiah writes, "And the angel said to me, Come, and you will see the glory of those who have never turned from the light of the Most High." With this promise, Isaiah is drawn upward, leaving behind the realm of judgment and entering a heaven where sin has never tainted the purity of its inhabitants. 5. The fifth heaven, the realm of unbroken praise and purity. As Isaiah is lifted into the fifth heaven, he leaves behind the darkness and heaviness of the fourth heaven, entering a realm radiant with purity and reverence. The air is filled with the sound of unceasing worship, the very essence of this realm. Isaiah writes in chapter 7, verse 34, "And I came into the fifth heaven, and I saw angels whose glory surpassed that of the heavens below. Their faces shone like the morning star, and they sang without ceasing before the Most High." This realm is marked by the complete absence of sin and the presence of angels who have never descended to earth, remaining in eternal proximity to the divine. The fifth heaven stands as a stark contrast to the realms below. Unlike the first and second heavens, where angels interact with the material and spiritual worlds, and the fourth, where rebellion is punished, this heaven is a place of uninterrupted holiness. These angels, described as beings of pure light, sing praises to God day and night, declaring His majesty and holiness. This imagery recalls the seraphim in Isaiah 6 verse 3, who cry out, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty, the whole earth is full of His glory." Isaiah observes the structure of this worship and the unique radiance of these angels. In chapter 7, verse 36, he notes, "And I saw their voices rise like incense before the throne of the Most High, and their song was as the sound of many waters, unending in its harmony." The depiction of their worship as incense parallels the imagery in Revelation 5 verse 8, where the prayers of the saints are presented as fragrant offerings to God. This connection underscores the sacredness of worship as a direct offering to the Creator. The fifth heaven reveals a deeper layer of God's kingdom, one where the focus shifts entirely to adoration and praise. Isaiah sees that these angels have never been tainted by the struggles or limitations of the material world. Their holiness is unblemished, and their relationship with God is marked by an intimate closeness. He describes their joy in chapter 7, verse 37, "And the angels of the fifth heaven rejoiced continually, for they knew neither sin nor sorrow, but only the glory of the Lord." This realm challenges us to reflect on our own lives and our approach to worship. The angels of the fifth heaven serve as an example of what it means to glorify God with undivided attention and untainted devotion. Do we, as followers of Christ, approach God with the same awe and reverence? Are our lives marked by praise that reflects His holiness, or are we distracted by the noise of the world? The fifth heaven calls us to lift our eyes and focus on the eternal, joining the heavenly hosts in worship that transcends time and space. Isaiah's guide explains that the fifth heaven is a realm of preparation for the greater glory that lies ahead. In chapter 7, verse 39, the angel says, "You have seen the purity of those who sing unceasingly before the Lord, but come now, for the realms above shine with a glory that cannot be spoken." This statement reveals the layered nature of God's kingdom, where each heaven builds upon the revelations of the last. The angels of the fifth heaven, while pure and devoted, point Isaiah upward to the throne of God, where the fullness of His glory resides. As Isaiah moves through the fifth heaven, he notices that the light intensifies, not in harshness but in warmth and radiance. He writes in chapter 7, verse 40, "And the light became as the sun at its zenith, and the angels' voices grew louder as they called to the realms above." This transition mirrors the believer's journey of faith, where each step closer to God deepens our understanding and magnifies His presence in our lives. The fifth heaven also serves as a reminder of the ultimate goal of creation, to glorify God. The angels here exist solely for this purpose, their lives a reflection of what humanity was created to be before the fall. Isaiah observes in chapter 7, verse 41, and I saw that their countenances were as mirrors, reflecting the light of the Most High, and their every action was an act of praise. This passage invites us to consider how we, too, might live lives that reflect God's light, becoming mirrors of His glory in a darkened world. As Isaiah ascends toward the sixth heaven, he feels the intensity of the worship and purity of the fifth heaven drawing him upward. The angel guiding him says in chapter 7, verse 42, "Prepare yourself, for the realms above are where the holy and sinless dwell in the presence of the Most High." This final encouragement prepares Isaiah for the overwhelming holiness and glory of the sixth heaven, where angels who serve directly before the throne of God await him. The journey from the fifth to the sixth heaven is one of increasing closeness to the divine. In the fifth heaven, Isaiah has seen the joy of unbroken worship, but he knows that the higher realms will bring him even closer to the source of all light and life. With this promise, he ascends, leaving behind the harmonious praises of the fifth heaven to encounter the radiant holiness of the sixth. 6. The sixth heaven, the realm of radiant holiness. As Isaiah ascends into the sixth heaven, he is overwhelmed by a light far more radiant and pure than anything he has encountered in the realms below. The air is charged with a divine energy that seems to reverberate through every part of his being. In the Ascension of Isaiah, chapter 7, verse 43, he describes this realm, "And I came to the sixth heaven, and there was a glory surpassing all I had seen before." The angels here shone like the sun at its zenith, their garments were like blazing fire, and their voices resounded as 1,000 trumpets. Here, Isaiah finds himself in the presence of angels who have never descended to earth, untouched by sin or corruption. These are the purest of God's servants, existing in unbroken communion with Him. Their holiness is not only visible, but almost tangible, as though the very atmosphere of the sixth heaven is alive with their devotion. Unlike the fifth heaven, where the focus is on unceasing praise, the sixth heaven is a realm of divine service carried out with perfection and unwavering obedience. Isaiah notes in chapter 7, verse 45, "These angels stood in the direct presence of the Most High, ready to carry out His will without hesitation, for they had never departed from His light." The angels of the sixth heaven are of a higher order, distinct from those in the lower heavens. Isaiah observes their majesty and purity, writing in chapter 7, verse 46, "Their faces were as the light of lightning, and their eyes like flames of fire. They had no blemish, no imperfection, for they dwelt continually in the holiness of God." These descriptions echo the imagery found in Daniel 10, verse 6, where an angel is described as having a face like lightning and eyes like flaming torches, reinforcing the biblical connection to Isaiah's vision. The sixth heaven is a realm where the angels not only worship, but also execute the highest commands of God, operating in perfect alignment with His will. Isaiah writes in chapter 7, verse 47, "And I saw scrolls in their hands, inscribed with the mysteries of the Most High, which they guarded with great care, for these were the words of life and judgment." These scrolls symbolize divine authority and the profound responsibility entrusted to these angels. They are stewards of God's ultimate plans, ensuring that His purposes are fulfilled across the heavens and the earth. This realm also reveals the depth of God's holiness. The angels of the sixth heaven exist in a state of absolute purity, their lives reflecting the unblemished nature of their Creator. Isaiah observes in chapter 7, verse 48, "Their voices rose as one, and they sang not only of His power but of His holiness, crying, 'Holy, holy, holy is the Lord, whose glory fills all the heavens and the earth.'" This mirrors the worship of the seraphim in Isaiah 6 verse 3, reinforcing the continuity of the heavenly vision across different texts. Isaiah's guide explains the unique role of these angels in the divine order. In chapter 7, verse 49, the angel says, "These are those who dwell closest to the throne of the Most High, yet they do not see His face, for only those of the seventh heaven behold His glory directly." This statement underscores the layered structure of God's kingdom, where even the most radiant angels of the sixth heaven remain in awe of the unapproachable light of God's throne in the seventh heaven. The sixth heaven challenges us to reflect on the nature of true holiness and our own calling as God's people. The angels here serve as an example of what it means to live in total submission to God's will, free from the distractions and temptations that often hinder our obedience. Their lives are a reminder of the goal of our faith, to be conformed to the image of Christ and to dwell in the presence of God forever. Isaiah's ascent to the sixth heaven also reveals the profound progression of his journey. Each realm he has encountered builds upon the last, leading him closer to the fullness of God's glory. The angels of the sixth heaven, though resplendent, point Isaiah upward to the final realm, the seventh heaven, where the throne of God awaits. In chapter 7, verse 50, Isaiah writes, "And the angel said to me, Come now, for you are near the throne of the Most High, where his glory shines brighter than 1,000 suns." As Isaiah prepares to ascend into the seventh heaven, he feels the weight of the journey thus far. The purity of the sixth heaven has shown him the heights of angelic holiness, yet it is only a reflection of the greater glory to come. The angels of this realm, with their fiery countenances and perfect service, stand as a reminder that even the highest created beings are but servants of the infinite and eternal God. With this understanding, Isaiah steps forward, his heart filled with anticipation and reverence, ready to behold the fullness of God's glory in the seventh and final heaven. 7. The seventh heaven, the throne of God's glory. As Isaiah ascends into the seventh heaven, he is immediately overwhelmed by a glory so intense and radiant that even the light of the lower heavens pales in comparison. This is the pinnacle of his journey, the highest realm of God's creation, where the fullness of divine majesty resides. In chapter 7, verse 51 of the Ascension of Isaiah, Isaiah writes, "And I entered the seventh heaven, and I saw a glory that no tongue can describe and no eye has seen. The light of the Most High filled all things, and the angels who surrounded his throne shone like the sun." This realm is the dwelling place of God's throne, surrounded by the highest order of angels, seraphim, cherubim, and archangels, who cry out in unceasing worship. Isaiah describes their voices in verse 52, "And they sang, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, the whole earth is full of his glory," and their praise shook the heavens. This mirrors the worship seen in Isaiah 6 verse 3, yet here the vision is expanded, offering a more vivid and detailed portrayal of the heavenly court. Isaiah's guide reveals that the seventh heaven is unique in its proximity to the unapproachable light of God's presence. In verse 54, the angel says to him, "You have seen the realms below, but here is the throne of the Most High, where his glory shines brighter than 10,000 suns. No angel dares approach without his command, and none can behold his face save the Son of God." This highlights the infinite holiness and majesty of God, whose glory surpasses even the highest of his creations. In the seventh heaven, Isaiah is granted a vision of the divine hierarchy. Surrounding the throne, he sees the seraphim and cherubim, their 6 wings covering their faces and feet as they worship in humility. These beings embody the highest order of purity and reverence, reflecting God's holiness. Isaiah also sees the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and others, standing ready to execute God's will across the heavens and earth. He writes in verse 55, "And I saw Michael, the great prince, standing before the throne, and his voice was like thunder as he praised the Most High." What strikes Isaiah most deeply, however, is not just the radiant glory of the angels but the overwhelming presence of God himself. In verse 56, he describes, "And there was one seated upon the throne, and his glory filled all things. His robe was like a flame of fire, and the throne was surrounded by a rainbow of indescribable colors." This depiction recalls the vision of Ezekiel in Ezekiel 1 verses 26 to 28, where the prophet also sees the glory of God's throne surrounded by a brilliant rainbow. It is in this highest heaven that Isaiah receives the ultimate revelation, the prophecy of the Messiah. The angel guiding him declares in verse 57, "Behold, the Son of God will descend from this place of glory to the realms below. He will pass through each of the heavens, humbling himself, and will take the form of a man to redeem humanity from the power of darkness. This prophecy aligns closely with the description of Christ's incarnation in Philippians 2 verses 6 to 8, where Paul writes, "Though he was in the form of God, he did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men." Isaiah witnesses the Son of God preparing to leave the seventh heaven, descending step by step through the lower realms. The angel explains in verse 58, "He will descend in humility, and the angels of each heaven will marvel as he passes, for he will veil his glory to take on the likeness of flesh. He will be born of a virgin, live among men, and conquer Satan through his obedience and sacrifice." This vision encapsulates the central theme of the Ascension of Isaiah, the cosmic scope of Christ's mission, from the highest heavens to the lowest realms, to fulfill God's plan of salvation. The seventh heaven also reveals the ultimate triumph of God's kingdom. In verse 60, Isaiah sees a vision of the final judgment, "And I saw the Son of God returning to the throne, having defeated the powers of darkness." The angels rejoiced, and the heavens were filled with their praise, for the victory of the Lord was complete. This vision echoes the imagery in Revelation 20 verse 10, where Satan and his forces are cast into the lake of fire, marking the end of their dominion. As Isaiah prepares to conclude his journey, he is reminded of the vastness and majesty of God's kingdom. The angel says to him in verse 62, "What you have seen is but a glimpse of the glory of the Most High. Return now and tell the people of the earth, that they may know the greatness of their God and the salvation he has prepared through his Son." This commission underscores the purpose of Isaiah's vision, to bring the hope and truth of God's plan to humanity. The seventh heaven, in all its brilliance and glory, leaves Isaiah in awe of God's infinite majesty and mercy. It is the culmination of his ascent, a realm where every being exists solely to glorify the Creator. Yet, it is also a reminder of God's deep love for humanity, as the Son willingly descends from this place of unimaginable glory to rescue a fallen world. As Isaiah is sent back to earth, he carries with him the assurance of God's ultimate victory and the promise of eternal communion with him. As we reflect on Isaiah's extraordinary journey through the seven heavens, we are left with a profound sense of awe at the vastness of God's kingdom and the intricate beauty of his divine order. From the stewardship of the cosmos in the first heaven to the radiant glory of the seventh heaven, every realm reveals a unique facet of God's majesty, justice, and mercy. Each layer of the heavenly hierarchy draws us closer to understanding the greatness of the Creator and the depth of his love for humanity. Isaiah's ascent is not merely a vision of celestial wonders, it is a journey that culminates in the ultimate revelation of God's redemptive plan. At the pinnacle of his experience, Isaiah witnesses the throne of the Most High, surrounded by angels singing unceasing praises. Yet even in this highest realm, the most astonishing truth is revealed: the Son of God, in his immeasurable glory, chooses to descend through each heaven, veiling his divine majesty to take on human form. This descent is the heart of the gospel, the incarnation of Christ, who humbles himself to defeat the powers of darkness and bring salvation to mankind. The Ascension of Isaiah challenges us to see beyond the physical world and recognize the spiritual realities that surround us. It calls us to reflect on the role of angels as faithful servants of God, the consequences of rebellion as seen in the fourth heaven, and the unending joy of worship in the higher realms. It reminds us that our prayers, like the incense Isaiah saw rising to God's throne, are heard and treasured by the Most High. Most importantly, Isaiah's vision reveals the cosmic scope of Christ's mission. His journey from the seventh heaven to the lowest realms of earth demonstrates a love so profound that it transcends all understanding. As Paul writes in Philippians 2 verses 7 to 8, he emptied himself, by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. This selfless act of redemption is the cornerstone of our faith, a testament to God's unrelenting desire to restore his creation. What does Isaiah's journey mean for us today? It reminds us that we are part of a grand divine plan, one that spans the heavens and the earth. It challenges us to live in obedience, like the angels of the higher realms, and to approach God with the reverence and humility Isaiah experienced. It also calls us to share the hope of the gospel with others, proclaiming the truth of Christ's victory over sin and death. As we close this reflection on the seven heavens, let us carry the lessons of Isaiah's vision into our lives. Let us remember the unshakable sovereignty of God, the reality of spiritual warfare, and the promise of eternal communion with Him. Above all, let us marvel at the humility of the Son of God, who descended from the highest heaven to redeem us, and let that truth transform the way we live, worship, and serve. Brothers and sisters, if this journey has inspired you, let it lead you to a deeper commitment to Christ. Share this message with those around you, so they too may see the beauty of God's plan and the hope of His salvation. Let the words of the angels in Isaiah's vision echo in our hearts, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, the whole earth is full of His glory." May we live each day in light of His holiness, carrying the joy of heaven into the world. Until we meet again, may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ guide you, and may the vision of His glory draw you closer to Him. Amen.